Okay, we're here today with Bessie Bordenave. Good to see you, Bessie.
Hi, nice seeing you.
Thank you so much for joining me. You and I have been friends for a while, but with Black History Month, we're doing this in February. I thought it'd be really good for folks in Howard County to learn a little bit more about the Howard County history of civil rights. And I know that you were born and raised in Howard County, right?
Correct.
And so I thought it'd be great just to get some of your story, and then maybe we can talk a lot about Harriet Tubman School, which is important to I know both of us. But why don't you give me a little idea of how where you were raised and how you got to where you are today?
Okay, I was born and raised here in Howard County.
Where were you born?
I was born on Mission Road.
Were you really?
I was born on Mission Road, right where, up the street from where I live now.
Yeah.
And then I lived on Guilford Road, right near Mrs. Kraft.
Mm-hmm.
There was the neighbors to Mrs. Kraft.
Which is now where Route 95 is, right?
Right where 95 goes through. And she used to give me piano lessons.
Ah.
And one time she was giving me some lessons, and I was downstairs playing, and she was upstairs, and I started playing the piano. She says, "Hey, that's not what I'm telling you to play."
I can hear her saying that.
So that was kind of interesting. But anyway, I went to Harriet Tubman High School. I went to Guilford Elementary School.
Did you go to Guilford? Was Morris Woodson there?
Morris Woodson was there.
Okay.
And I went to Guilford Elementary School, and then from there I went to Harriet Tubman High School.
Okay.
And at Harriet Tubman High School, it was a big change because here we are, little kids coming from a little neighborhood of Guilford and going into Harriet Tubman to see all these kids. I mean, there were students from everywhere. And actually, to go to Harriet Tubman, everybody came from everywhere and went to that one school.
Right, all across the county. Yeah.
All across the county. So there were kids from Wayne-Daisy, Marrittsville, whatever. And we met a lot of people there at Harriet Tubman High School. And
Who was principal when you were there?
when I was there, Mr. Fleury was principal.
Okay, so what year did you graduate?
62.
62. So Mr. Fleury, when did he become principal?
He became a principal in 57.
Because was it 49 when it opened? Or
It opened in 49.
Okay.
And then from 49 up until 56 is when Mr. Kraft was principal.
I got you.
And then Mr. Fleury
And Mr. Kraft came from Cooksville
came from Cooksville.
because they closed the Cooksville and they opened up Harriet Tubman, right?
Right, they closed up the Cooksville School because they needed a bigger school. And they opened up the Harriet Tubman. But Mr. Fleury was such a sweet man.
You say that so many people were afraid of him because he's so big.
He was a sweet guy. And I used to go to Harriet Tubman, and the secretary would always come and get me out to go down to wherever she had to go. And so that was always nice. But at Harriet Tubman High School, it was very interesting because I took classes under the commercial class.
What does that mean?
It means that there were kids who went to, who were smarter, I'll say that, and then the kids who were, in other areas. So in Harriet Tubman, they had the commercial class, and that commercial class taught shorthand, and they did secretarial kind of things. And I enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed that because that's what I wanted to be, a secretary.
Okay.
And as I went through life, I did become a secretary. I went to Atlantic Business School
Okay.
in D.C., and then I became a secretary, working for different offices in Washington, D.C., specifically working for Mr. Saudi. His name is Sam Saudi.
Okay.
It's a secretary there at Washington, D.C.
Okay.
But anyway, back at Harriet Tubman. Harriet Tubman High School is a school that offered us so much. There is so much history in Harriet Tubman that I don't even think once the building is finished that we'll be able to display and show everything that we really would like to have. We just put together a book entitled Memories of Harriet Tubman, and we have a quote in there, actually more than just a quote, but a page or so from you.
Thank you. Yeah, I remember doing that.
Yeah. And so we have this book, and it talks about all of the students give their impressions or memories of Harriet Tubman, what it was like going to Harriet Tubman. And they all spoke very highly about the teachers, about the classes, about everything that was going on at Harriet Tubman High School. Harriet Tubman offered a lot to me because it gave me an opportunity to really see what it was like from a black perspective and then going to work in a white perspective.
Interesting.
Because we were never really around white people during Harriet Tubman. It was mostly all black school.
Yep.
All black.
Yep.
And Mr. Yingling.
Yes, Superintendent Yingling.
Superintendent Yingling. He just refused to give us our diplomas. He always had somebody else to just kind of give the diplomas to each of the students. But anyway, Harriet Tubman High School allowed us an opportunity to really see what it was really like being in that community. Going into Washington, D.C., here I was going from all black area into an all white neighborhood or white school. I mean, white area. And it gave me an opportunity to see exactly what it was like.
Wow.
I went to Atlantic Business School. It was a black school. But then I went into the Federal Communications Commission.
Okay.
Working at the FCC with Mr. Who was that gentleman? I can't even think of his name. But anyway, Mr. Oh God, his name was on the tip of my tongue. Darn it. But anyway, so I had an opportunity to really see what it was like. I was the only black at this particular office. I was the only black person in the office, and it gave me a chance to really see exactly what it was like. So, for me,
what did you notice? I mean, what did you feel?
Well, I noticed that Mr. whatever his name was. Anyway, when I got there, or shortly after I'd been there for a while, I put on the wall some pictures of Mr. Mr. Hooks, Dr. Hooks, and some other people on the wall. And so he said, "Oh, you have to take that down.
Really?
You have to take that down." And so I said, "Oh, why?" And so I immediately got up and went into Mr. Whoever his name was.
The supervisor.
And and I said, "Mr. wants me to take this down." He says, "Why?" I said, "I don't know why." And he says, "No, you don't have to take that down." So he allowed me, the opportunity to just leave it up. But
did you know? So that's clearly that there are some people you were working with who were not accepting of having you in the office, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. In that particular office, now there was one lady there. She was really nice. I can't remember these people's names.
It's been a while,
But anyway, she was very nice. She was the secretary to the gentleman who was in charge of everything, Mr. Executive Director, whoever he was. And so she was really a nice lady, very nice lady. But I had a chance to see something different.
I bet you did. Now, I'm just thinking about Howard County. When you were growing up in Howard County, not just with Harriet Tubman, what was it like growing up in a segregated county? Because Howard County was pretty segregated back then, right?
Yeah, well, growing up in Howard County back then, you really didn't know that it was really segregated, but you knew that it was segregated. Everybody went to First Baptist Church of Guilford, pretty much in the area, and we just had a really good time, but we didn't really focus in on race then. We were really concerned about each other and helping each other. I don't know.
Because I remember my dad telling stories when I was young about, he would be with Leola or Sing Dorsey and Remus, of course with Silas, John Holland, I guess many people, Wayman Scott, a bunch of folks, and trying to push back against the rules.
Right.
And how Superintendent Yingling was one who was not easy to push back on. And I remember my dad telling many stories of him and Silas Craft going there and going to the superintendent trying to explain how they need to
Right.
make integration go more quickly, and they would push back really hard. And so, I mean, I think about those leaders. I include you in that list of leaders, and just how difficult was it to, you graduated, but you still had to live in a society that wasn't
Right.
fair.
Right.
And you did that. You talked about it in Washington, but did you ever notice the things that weren't fair in Howard County? I mean, besides, of course, that you're going to a school that's segregated, and you're probably getting not the best textbooks, right?
Right. Well, living in Howard County and going to some of the places that we saw. For instance, there was a place right on Guilford Road called Nisley's.
Okay.
And Nisley's was a beer joint right on the corner of Guilford and Oakland Mills Road almost.
Oh, really? Okay.
Uh-huh. And it was always the whites went in one side and the blacks went in one side.
Really?
But when those jokers got to drinking and whatever else came out there, it didn't even matter whether they were black or white. They just hung out there and had a good time.
Wow.
But you knew that you could only go into that one side. Excuse me.
Yeah.
During that time. But
Interesting.
it was interesting.
Yeah. So I know you left and worked in some other place. You said you've worked with Dr. Hooks for a while.
Right.
What was that like in New York, you said to me?
Well, I worked with Dr. Hooks at the FCC.
Oh, okay. I see. Okay. Yeah.
And he was at the FCC. And then he went to New York. And so he said, I've got to go. You got to go to New York. I go, no, I can't go. So anyway, I ended up going to New York with him. But working with the NAACP, it was just always issues going on. There was always something going on with the NAACP as it relates to the race.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was always something going on. So,
But you were part of that. That's pretty exciting to think that you had a chance to see history happening.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was interesting.
Yeah. And we talked earlier, so you came back to Howard County in 1988.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you got involved with the NAACP, of course.
Yes.
And I got to know you initially when you were doing your work with the Youth Council.
Right.
So how long did you work with the Youth Council? Or you're probably still doing some things with them.
I worked with the Youth Council from 1995 up until probably 2017.
And what was the goal of the Youth Council? Like, what was the purpose of the Youth Council?
The Youth Council was really involved with a lot of different areas. They were involved with the homeless. There were a lot of homeless people in the area. And we would bring the homeless to Ridgely Run Community Center in 2007. And we would feed them and have a good time. It was really a wonderful occasion because we had a chance not only to sit and talk with the homeless people, but to really engage with them. That was really wonderful. That was a wonderful time. But we also were involved with getting out in the community and helping the community out, doing things in the community as it relates to health, as it relates to education. So there were a lot of different things that we were involved with the NAACP.
Right, and it gave those young people a great opportunity to see how it is to give back, right?
Oh, yes.
And to serve others.
Yes. They enjoyed it. In fact, they really loved giving back to the community. They would have conversations with the homeless people and different things. So it was interesting.
No, I'm sure, because I saw you and your leadership role there, and I could just see those young people and what they gain the confidence in themselves because they're helping the community. They also understand the importance of not thinking about yourself, think about other people, and they're getting up on a Saturday morning or whatever days that you had to do things, and they could be sleeping in or they could be with their friends, and instead they're helping the community. And I think that's a huge lesson for young people to learn.
It was a good lesson because, in fact, some of the young people, even to this day, call me, and they'll relate on what they're doing. In fact, a young lady is over in Morocco, I think.
Wow.
And she came back, and she and I had lunch, and she was talking about how wonderful it was to be involved with the NAACP and how she's taken it over to that particular country and carrying it out.
Well, I mean, that's where you kind of you start something and it blossoms, and you might not see all the blossoms, but it blossoms out there. We were talking earlier, the Harriet Tubman Foundation, I think you said started in 2002?
2002, right.
Okay. Now, why did that happen? Why did the Harriet Tubman Foundation come together? What was the purpose or the mission of the foundation?
The mission of the foundation was to try to get that building back into the community and to make it a place where people could come and learn really what really happened at Harriet Tubman. There were so many things that were going on that we really wanted to have that building brought back into the community. And it took us a long time.
Because people were working on that even before you found the foundation, right? I mean, there were people working to try to preserve that building. I think you mentioned Wileen Birch.
Yeah, Wileen Birch was the one who was out trying to get the building, and it just didn't go anywhere. And finally, we were able to work on it and get it to go. Thanks to your efforts, we were able to get the building to go.
And then it was the school system kept it, right? Because, I mean, it was a school system building, and I think they had a lot of storage there, and they had some of their maintenance facility there. Is that right?
Right. They had a lot of maintenance there. There were a lot of painting. It was just a lot of stuff in that building that had to be taken out before we really could kind of demolition it to where it is now.
Because I can remember when, I guess even before, but after for sure when I was county executive, I got to know you really well. And the word out there is you don't say no to Bessie Bordenave. And I really feel like we developed a very good relationship because I think we both had a personal reason for wanting to preserve that building.
Right.
I mean, I certainly had that with my father's work in the civil rights, but also, as you know, the Fleury family were very close to our family, and so I knew Hart Fleury so well, and that's why I joked that all my friends were afraid of him because he was this big man, but he was like a teddy bear.
Right.
But no one else knew that but me because I saw the other side of him.
Right.
They would see him at school. And so it was something that I cared about. It was something that you certainly care about more than anyone I know. I know Delegate Turner worked very hard on Frank Turner.
Yes.
And a lot of other folks. And I remember going to the Harriet Tubman Day when I first got elected. I think it must have been 2015, and we went to Ridgely Run, and then we took the bus ride over. And I remember you let me ride the bus with everybody, and it was an experience I'll never forget. And I remember people singing the school song and hearing the stories, and having some teachers were still alive and were there. And it was just, and I remember walking through the school and seeing people talk about where their locker was, and they're telling stories. I mean, it was. It really impacted me tremendously, and I thank you for allowing me to experience that. But from then on, it was like, Allan, that's a priority for you, Bessie. Right. It's a priority for me. And thankfully, we were able to figure out how the school system would give it to us, back to us. We had to find a room for them somewhere else. So we got that done, and it wouldn't have happened without you. I want you to know that I tell that to everybody.
Thank you.
I mean, there were others who were involved as well, but there's only one that really made it happen. And so I just want to thank you for that. And can you kind of tell us what's been happening? And we actually we started working on purchasing it early on, but we couldn't get the building until we got them out.
Right.
And so we finally had to find another location for them. We put in the budget. We found another place for them. We got them going. I guess it was in 2018 that we actually had the document to give it to us.
Right.
We had the memorandum of understanding earlier. So once we got it, why don't you tell me, what's happened and how you saw things?
Okay. Well, once we got the building, pardon me. Once we got the building, we were excited about it. We started with some renovation, and we got the recreative classroom done while you were still in office, and we got the cafeteria
right?
completed while you were there,
Yep.
and we were working on the gymnasium. And the cafeteria has been completed. We have there's still a lot of things that have to be done, but we are making steps.
Right.
I was hoping that we would be able to get in there for this Black History Month. However, because of some delays and whatever else, we're not going to be able to get in there for February 2022. But they are making progress. There's a lot of demolition has to be done. There's just so much construction that has to be done in that building. They have cut some of the building down. Some of the rooms have been cut to make space for the Howard County Recreation and Parks. Then there's been some other spaces that have been cut also to allow for glass to be put up where you can kind of look into the room and see students. So I think it's going to be a wonderful, wonderful building once it's completed. I'm excited about it. I'm looking forward to really getting into that building whenever that will be. I'm hoping that it'll be March or April.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think that let's go back to when we had the break-in.
I was going to ask you about that. Yes, please talk about that. Explain when it was, too, because some people might not know.
I think it was in probably July or something like August, something like that.
Of 2021.
2021, when someone broke into the building and they destroyed maybe 10 or 12 doors, destroyed some of the other things that we had in the building. However, nothing that was really important to the county was destroyed. Only things that were with the Harriet Tubman, as far as I'm concerned, that were destroyed.
So there clearly was a motive behind the people going in here, don't you think?
Oh, yeah, there definitely was a motive behind it. I clearly think that it was racial. And that's just me, but that's what I think. But anyway, the young lady, Mrs. Myers, Lisa Myers.
Oh, yes, the chief of police.
Chief of police.
At the time.
At that time, she was, right on it, and she was doing what she was supposed to do. And but then it has come to a complete standstill.
You mean the investigation?
Investigation. We have not heard anything since probably November. I don't know. I don't know other than the fact that they said that nothing was found.
It's really disturbing to me because you called me. I thank you for calling me when it happened, and just to stress the fact that there's a lot of nice equipment in that building.
Yes.
And especially on the Rec and Park side, and they didn't touch any of that, right?
Nope.
And so if someone's going to break in, if it's just someone breaking in to get something, they're going to go get those computers or other good things. They clearly came in to just do damage.
That's all.
And they only did damage to things that were historical and things that dealt with the African-American community.
Absolutely.
And it's heartbreaking for me because, we live in a county that we would hope would be much more future. I mean, much better than this, that, we think we've gone through all these struggles. And you might remember that in 2018 when we finally had the ceremony that turned the building over to us, I was very emphatic and that I wanted this to be a cultural center that people can learn what happened in the past because we don't want to repeat what happened in the past, but it's important for us to learn it.
Right.
And as I tell people now, I want our schools to teach the civil rights history of Howard County, not just America. America is very important, but I want them to. I want our youngsters to know who Silas Craft was, who Dorothea Craft was, who Elhart Fleury, Morris Woodson, you, and see Leola and Remus Dorsey and John Holland. I mean, I think it's important for people to know what it was like here when the Civil Rights Act was going on, and I think that Harriet Tubman School can really be that vehicle that we can use, and I'm hopeful that that's what's going to happen. I don't know if you feel the same way, but
I'm hopeful too. We just had the book Blacks in Howard County republished, and we got 1,500 copies. And so copies have been given to the school system now.
Good.
So everyone in the school system, every library in the school system will have a copy.
Good.
And then it'll be given out throughout the county. The Howard County not Park and Recreation, but the Howard County NAACP gave us permission to have that book printed. And so the book has been printed. So the Howard County NAACP has copies. So anybody looking for copies can get copies. And then we have copies that people can get and look at that. It gives a lot of history about the blacks in Howard County. It talks about the history of how we lived during slavery, how we lived, what did we do, in terms of entertainment. What did we do? What did we do? So it's a book that has a lot of good information that a lot of people would really enjoy reading.
I would certainly love that. I would love that. Yeah, I love talking to people who have lived here all their lives, who have dealt with it. Because I tell the stories, and I'm going to be talking with Reverend Sands and Reverend Sands soon. And I remember the stories that my dad would tell about going and dealing with public accommodations. I'm sure you had to face that when you were younger. What restaurants you could go to, what restaurants they wouldn't serve
Restaurant.
you.
We didn't go to restaurants.
No.
There was no McDonald's. There was no Burger King. There was none of that. We actually, it's growing up. I remember on some Sundays, maybe every other month, we would just take a trip and we would just ride up going through Frederick. Yeah. And we would park on the side of the road and we would just have our lunch. And that would be our entertainment right then and there. So.
Wow. Gosh. But so now, what's next for you after Harriet Tubman?
Next for me is just to sit down and rest.
Yes, you are probably the busiest person I know. Yeah, you have your hands in everything, and you're so involved with so many things. But I just, I can't say it enough. My time working for you has been a pleasure. It's funny. We haven't always agreed on everything. You might want some things that I feel like we couldn't do, but I think we actually worked very well together.
We did.
And I have appreciated that. And I look at that school, and as you know, when I had my photo done for when I left my office, that's what I wanted in the photo with me.
That was the photo.
But that was just important for me. I wanted people to know that, I thought we did a lot of good things when I was in office, but the thing I'm most proud of is Harriet Tubman and preserving that for the community. And I'm just so glad that you've been there to help shepherd it, because I know we've talked before. There were some things initially talked about that, whoa, why would you do that in that school? But you were there to kind of keep things moving, and so I appreciate that. And I know a lot of other people in the community were part of the foundation or part of the board looking at Harriet Tubman. So that's really exciting. So anything else you want to add about Howard County, or how do you feel now? Do you think we're doing okay in Howard County? You think we still have things we can do better? But any thoughts?
Well, no thoughts.
Yeah.
No thoughts. I mean, there's things that we can do better in Howard County. Obviously, there's always things that you can do better than you did before. Yeah. And it's just a matter of now just taking your time and just look at them and just decide, hey, let's try to do better.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's talking. And that's one reason I think Harriet Tubman School will be so great, because we can get people in there who can talk.
Yes.
And I've told you the story about when John Lunn had asked me to go to the Black History class when I was in 10th grade, and I was the only white person in the class. And it was a eye-opening experience for me. And even though I was a son of a civil rights leader, I was uncomfortable.
Right.
And it took a while for me and there were actually students there that I knew, that I played athletics with or did other things in school with, but I still felt uncomfortable. And it took a while. But after talking and sharing experiences, and then by the end of the school year, even well before the end of the school year, we were friends and we were enjoying ourselves, and I had a great time in the class. And I think if we would do that as a community, if we all would come together, and maybe Harriet Tubman could be that place where we can bring people together and talk about the issues that are dividing us, and instead try to unite us. I think it would really, I think, help with the, or it would be a way to thank our forefathers,
yes,
the foremothers,
yes,
for all that they had to struggle through. If we could show that we're trying to make it better,
right,
and our young people. And so hopefully that's what Harriet Tubman School is going to be about. And
that's what it's going to be about. I mean, because I think that once we get into that Harriet Tubman building, you're going to see some things going on that you really never even thought about before. It'll be a wonderful occasion.
Well, it's going to be great. Well, thank you so much for taking time with me. I'd love to spend time with you, and I'll be excited when those doors open up. I know you get to go in. Not everybody else goes in, but you get to go in. But it'll be exciting when it's open for all of us, and I look forward to seeing you that day.
Very good.
Take care. Thank you.
Take care.